What is up, guys? We are live. This is another edition of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Today's video is a very special video, somebody that I have been in contact with for quite a few months, and I am excited to say is going to be joining the show today. We're talking about a guy that had an All-American season as a freshman at Jacksonville State. He's a West Virginia native, and he chose us over a lot of good teams. We're very lucky to have his services. We're obviously talking about Xavier Bausley. Xavier, thank you for joining the show, man, and hope that introduction was worthy.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful to listen to. It's great to be on here.
Appreciate it, man. So we're going to go ahead and acknowledge our tribal chief, our sponsor, before we get this video moving. And then we will proceed with the interview on after that. So just hold for 1 minute, guys. This episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. And today's video is sponsored by our main man and best sponsor, Magic Shine Auto Spa and Tint in Morgantown, West Virginia. At Magic Shine, your vehicle's care is their top priority. They use only the highest quality products to ensure your car not only looks its best, but is also protected and maintained with the utmost care. From window tinting with top-of-the-line Max Pro Tint to protective ceramic coatings from Diamond Protec, they've got you covered. Drive in today and experience the difference at Magic Shine Auto Spa and Tint, where your car shines like new. Shine on, Morgantown. All right. Appreciate you guys for being patient while we did that. Got to pay the bills. We have none other than our right tackle, Xavier Bausley, on the show. If you want to ask him a question, guys, we ask that you use the super chat button. It's probably going to get full in here as we go along. Certainly, I will point out specific questions as we go along to ask Xavier, but generally speaking, I have a few questions I'm going to get out to him as well, but we'll figure it all out as we go, man. It's just an exciting episode, man. So, we were talking off camera, Xavier. So obviously, I think the best place to start is, are you there?
Yep.
Okay. Your picture froze. I think the best place to start is South Charleston product, right? And a little under recruited, I think we can admit. But, in our conversations, you've told me, hey, look, I probably wasn't ready yet. Can you kind of get into that a little bit and exactly what that year at Jacksonville State did for you as a player?
Yep. So coming out of high school, your junior year is really when you get highly recruited. So, but my junior year happened to be the COVID year. So during that COVID year, I was about 340 pounds of just not a good 340 pounds.
Gotcha.
Pizza bite and mozzarella stick, 340 pounds.
Right.
And I couldn't move very well. So I went to a lot of these camps and they were just like, look, you're just way too fat. So my senior year, I dropped all this weight, got down to 280, and I was playing a lot better after that. But by that time, all they can really offer you is the walk-on once your senior year hits at these big Division I schools. So I lose all the weight, and then Rick Trickett, he was at Glenville State my senior year, and then so he was recruiting me there, and then I believe it was in December of that year, my senior year, that he had got the job at Jacksonville State, the offensive line coach job, and Richrod got the head coach job, and they wanted to bring me down there. So that was my one offer out of high school, and I just decided to go to Alabama. Yep.
That's awesome, man. So one thing I remember when I first started talking to you, I said, "Well, what is it about Trickett and Richrod?" And you said very detail oriented.
Yeah.
Can you talk about just obviously Trickett is lauded as one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time, and that's not just it means a West Virginia fan saying that. That's legit. The proof's in the pudding. What do you think makes him so great?
It's like I said, it's every time you get in the stance, your first step, like everything is just to a T. He wants it exactly how he wants it. And when you watch film on any offensive line Trickett is coached, there's a certain standard that is upheld with all the film that you can. And I mean, when I was at Jacksonville State, we would watch like old film of like his Florida State guys. And it would still make him mad that when they would make mistakes. Like this is 10 years later, and he's getting mad at the film 10 years ago about how it's not picture perfect. So
wow.
So he's a football. He's obsessed with football. Like that is his life. Like he knows almost anything you can ever know about offensive line play.
So we got a couple quick comments I want to throw your way. Todd Strickland, a.k.a. Silver Thunder, says, I live 15 minutes from Charleston. Glad to see you back home.
Great to be home.
Baxter Mallory, awesome. Thank you for choosing the old gold and blue. That's okay. I hope we see great things for you.
That's good. That's good. Yes, sir.
And my favorite comment so far is X going to give it to you.
Man, RIP DMX.
Yep. About the great about time great talent for West Virginia came home to WVU.
And Neil Brown, they'll recruit in state. That's one that they've made that a point. You don't want good talent leaving the state.
Big Bausley. So I think it's time to get into the Richrod talk, man. So I thought about saving this for the end of the video because people are going to want to hear these Richrod stories. But give me the first time you met Richrod, first of all. I want to know that. And then what was that like?
So my first time meeting Richrod was actually on my official visit there. So where it was like a last-minute offer. I talked to Trickett about coming there, and then I went on the official visit there. And my family was huge Mountaineer fans. So when Richrod left to go to Michigan back in 08, right? 07 or 08.
Right.
My dad had assigned Richrod post like calendar, like Richrod had signed it. When he left, my dad threw it in a bonfire.
Oh wow!
So like there was a lot of not animosity because it's my one offer, but like it was just like he had to explain why he left and things like that. So my dad, we come to meet Richrod, and my dad told him straight up, Coach, I burned your picture. And he was like, and Richrod literally goes, that's probably the most tame story I've heard. So you're good with me. So I mean, Richrod was just such a funny guy, man. Every time you talk to Richrod, you go end up laughing. So yeah, we had a great time on that visit. I went with my host, and Richrod sat down with my parents and explained some things and just really got to know him on a personal level, and it was great. He's a really personable guy. I mean, you see the anger he shows on the field, but when it comes down to it, he's a great guy.
Yeah. So that offense they run, it's been working for a long time. How involved is he with the offense there still? Is he still basically the OC?
He's basically the OC.
Yeah. And so you've had a chance to kind of see, and I'm not asking you to say who's better. I'm just curious, how different are Neil Brown and Richrod and the way they call plays? Is it similar? Like, is it completely different? Curious.
Well, I mean, at this point in college football, people are running basically the same schemes. They just call different things.
Right.
But the biggest difference, the most obvious difference is just the pace. Like Richrod, it is hurry up all the time. which has its benefits and has its drawbacks, obviously. And there's not a right way to play football. I mean, there's plenty of ways, but Richrod, we literally had time on the line to say Mike Wright, and then we were snapping the ball. Like, we were the fastest team in the country. So that's probably the biggest difference. But schemes are basically the same.
That's a great answer. Sean Uphold says, $20 super chat. Thank you very, very much, man. That's very, very generous. He said, it seems like Neal and company are putting a heavy focus on the O-line. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Coach Brown knows exactly how important the offensive line is, and that's what separates most of the time the SECs and from the other conferences is that, like, normally the Big 12 has the skill players to compete with the guys in the SEC, but the trenches is where the games are won and lost. So
no doubt
they are, and the big emphasis they've been having on the offensive line is just depth, because it's the most physical position on the field. Guys are going to get hurt. So if you don't have depth, you're screwed. So it was great listening to Coach Brown talk so greatly about the offensive line, and that's what the culture I wanted to join.
Goodness gracious, Kat. Wow. She wasn't trying to let go, was she? I apologize for that.
No problem.
I lost my train of thought off of that one. She scratched me and everything. I agree, though. As far as the offensive line goes, obviously it's been, if you want to talk about having a leader in the clubhouse, that's where it starts and ends. The last couple of years especially. What's that group looking like, man? Obviously, you're right there in the thick of it on the right side for that right tackle job. You and Nick Malone are battling that thing out. And I know that's got to be fun. But just observe, obviously you probably come to this, you've heard a lot about this offensive line. And so does what's being said match up to what it actually is? And what's the standard like for this offensive line? You talked about Trickett. What's the standard for this group, and how many leaders do they have? Because we hear they got a lot.
Yeah, it is a very tight-knit group that does everything together. We go out together. We Coach Moore and everybody went in shotguns and stuff like that. So it is it was a very welcoming group to be a part of. You got your older guys like Brandon Yates, Wyatt Milam, and Nick Malone. And Jaquay. They're the guys that set the standard, and they I think we have a great mix of of young guys and then the older guys to look up to that set the standard.
Awesome, man, and a lot of personable guys in that room. I mean, literally, so many vocal. You look at Yates; he's probably going to be swinging the sledgehammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you look at Jaquay Hubbard; he's been doing a tour around all the places, doing interviews this offseason. Yeah. You've got obviously very personable. Wyatt probably be the more. I don't know this to be sure, but he seems like maybe the more quiet one of the group.
Yeah, I mean he can be quiet at times, but when he's around the line, he's
I'm sure
as much as anybody. Yeah.
So talking about Brandon Yates there for a second, have you had? I mean, obviously you're probably hyper focused on yourself.
Yeah.
But looking at him and who he's having to replace, have you thought about how much pressure is on that kid this year to have to replace such a legend like Zach Frazier?
Yeah, but I think that he's doing a great job of taking that in stride. And I wasn't here last year, but from the way Coach Moore talks about how Yates has just improved and improved and improved, never taken steps back. I mean, Yates is one of the biggest effort guys we have on the line. It's constant effort, and then he's strong as an ox. He's probably our strongest guy on the line. So I think.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
It's a tough, it's tough shoes to fill, but I feel that he is definitely up to that task.
Leo Cole wants to know, Xavier, do you know Chris George?
Chris George, that name does not ring a bell. I'm more of a face person. Names don't really stick with me.
Bama 25 said your dad's not the only one that did shit like that.
What's that referring to?
Burning Richrod's picture.
Oh yeah.
Now that the chat's filled up a little bit more, let's dive back into a couple of Richrod things.
Yeah.
So you told a great story about Richrod earlier about your dad burning the picture and then having to see him on the recruiting visit. He said that wasn't even nothing compared to what he went through when he left. Can you divulge the reasons he said he left? We know what he said publicly, and that's basically that he couldn't pay his assistants. Is that what you were told, or can you even talk about it?
That was exactly what he told my family. I mean,
yeah,
right. Word for word. Like I watched the Pat McAfee interview when I was going on the visit. Like it's the exact same. So there was nothing different.
And it was true, unfortunately. Yeah. I at the time, it was just because of how good we were. And the timing of it, you're talking about literally at the same time you get a chance to play in the national championship game. All you got to do is be the team you're favored by 30 over, and then all this happens. It was bad, So, and he wasn't and he and Pat McAfee got to share that with each other because they were equally hated there for a little while, which wasn't fair to Pat, in my opinion.
And I mean, Pat White got hurt. Like a bunch of things happened in that game.
A bunch of things happened. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Everything you need for an upset.
And I mean, there were some good players on that Pitt team. Like he had LaShawn McCoy, Darrell Revis. Like they weren't like they say like their record was bad, but there were some guys on that team. So.
Good guys. I'm glad to have WVU supporters on this page. I'm in Virginia, but from West Virginia, always be a Mountaineer fan. Thanks, Pokemon. Appreciate that comment. Sean, I think we would too. Most of us would welcome him back in Morgantown if you ever wanted to visit. Some are still bitter. Yeah, listen, obviously I'm not in a place where I want Neil Brown fired at all. I'm not saying that. But when we thought it might happen a couple years ago, I was of the mindset like I would have accepted him back, I mean, I'm always going to love Richrod and what he did for us. And he did. It's, I would challenge anybody that was in his situation to say no to Michigan. It wouldn't be easy. They offered life-changing money. So home is home, but hey, you just went through a similar situation, right, Xavier?
Yeah.
Where you were having to weigh some financial stuff against home. And I think, so it's relatable. It happens to a lot of us in life. So.
Oh yeah, and I mean it doesn't have to be as big as leaving West Virginia to Michigan. It can be leaving one job to go to another state that is away from your family. I mean it's you just have to put yourself in other people's shoes a lot of the time.
Which is exactly what Bama 25 did here. The Pat McAfee interview with Richrod honestly helped me forgive him and look at it differently.
Yeah, the whole he threw that game narrative is just I don't even get how that makes sense. If he wanted to make himself look better for the Michigan job, wouldn't he want to go get a national championship? Right. I don't get the throw the game narrative, honestly, but
there were people that were trying to say that Michigan put him on a timeline and that if he won, he would have had to play in the national championship game, thus losing the job, which is ridiculous.
I don't think that happens.
You can't weigh money against the national championship game. They're not equal to me.
No.
So he it's not like he was out of the job forever. If you go to the national championship game, especially at West Virginia, you're pretty much made for the next. You'd have to lose for 2 or 3 years in a row before somebody would. You'd start to lose some heat. It's insane to me. So personally, man, I'm excited about this season. I think a lot of people have us looking at us as dark horse contenders, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, man. Obviously, you're not going to get on here and say no, we have no shot. But just looking at it objectively, I really do think this is, and I haven't been able to say this in almost 7-8 years. This is their best shot. The pieces they're adding. We just had a kid from Mississippi State. That's a luxury piece, right? I mean, our receiver room is already good, and so now you add a 6'4" guy that's, I mean, if you watch the tape, I mean, he's a red zone threat along with Gen Ross, who's another 6'7" tight end. They just keep adding these luxury pieces. It's wild to me. They pounded that quarterback room into oblivion as far as with the transfer portal. They they're going to make sure that it's right. And I mean, it's just everywhere you look, pieces are being added.
Yeah, but I mean, it just speaks to what I said with the offensive line. They want depth, and I mean that's you want to get that anywhere you can.
Everywhere you can, and you run a pretty good team last year at Jackson State. I mean, you guys won 9 games too, right?
Yeah, we were a good team. We ran the ball. That's what we did, and that's why I thought it was such a good fit at West Virginia. But we broke the single game Conference USA record against Louisiana Tech. We had 525 yards. So it's a Rick Trickett and Richrod. They're gonna run the ball, man. That's what they did.
Mm-hmm. Xavier, you will be around the youth camp in a couple weeks. Will you be around the youth camp in a couple weeks? We're driving up from Bama for it again.
The June one, I believe. Yeah, the June 30th, I think.
Yeah.
If that's what you're referring to, yeah.
If it's the June 30th one, yes, then Bama. So I think what I want to get into now is a little bit of the defense too, because obviously you've gone up against certain players every day in practice. I have a couple of favorites that I'm going to watch throughout the year that I, most of the ones that have talked to me, it's just natural to like people that you know a little more. But so TJ Jackson is a guy that you guys recruited right around committed right around the same time. Yeah. And I was talking to you guys both individually at the times that they both pretty much happened. They're just a little bit apart. And TJ is such a good guy, really, really cool story. He's got a cool story. His tape is impressive, man. He's a truly explosive dude. What kind of impact can you see a guy like TJ Jackson making this year on that defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, he was on the opposite team in the spring game, so I had to go up against him a consistent bit. I mean, he's great get off the ball. He can play almost anywhere on the D-line. So he can play the 3 technique outside on the end. And he can do it all, and we're using him that way. So great pickup from Troy. We're both coming from Alabama, except I'm coming back home. He's going further from home. But so we've been bonding over both being in Alabama and having some similar experiences.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. The heat probably being one of them, I'm sure.
Oh man, this was the best spring in terms of weather I've ever had, man. It was a little chilly, and I was like, man, this is great. Because down south, that heat is a little different. The humidity is crazy.
So I think one thing that West Virginia fans are concerned about is one thing we just haven't had the past few years is a consistent pass rush. You got, now there's Tyron Bradley, who absolutely came on, probably one of the strongest players coming on at the end of last year. A guy that really sets the edge well. Yeah. I think probably as far as what he's, in my opinion, the best on the roster at it. But I don't know some of the new players. And then you got a guy like French, who they say screams off the edge. What do those two guys add to the pass rushing equation? Am I missing anybody that I'm not, because I could be?
No, those two guys, they're really good off the edge. Can both drop into coverage. You guys, they're bandit types, but they're very quick off the edge. And then Aubrey Burks, in terms of pass rush, for him to be a nickel corner, is he bends the edge like a defensive end. It is crazy.
Not really.
The first time I went up against him, I set out to him. And I thought it was just going to be another corner coming. So I got on him, and then he hit me with a pass rush move. I was like, whoa, that's the guy right there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So, are you saying Spears going to fit him pretty well?
he's a great player. That's
Good,
Auburn
man.
Burks is a great player.
Good. Well, that's great to hear. Bama said he lived 15 minutes from TJ down there in Alabama. That's cool. Guys, don't forget to like the video while you're here. We've got 106 people watching this on the YouTube portion. Haven't looked over at X yet. Subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't done that already, drop a comment below if you're watching this after the video posts. Something for Xavier if you want, maybe. And I'll try to ask him on our own free time and try to get that back to you. Can't promise he'll be available, but I can try. Super chat button is open if you want to help the show out. As always, if you have a specific question you want to know about the West Virginia football team, certainly throw that in the super chat. We'll try to see what Xavier says about it. So, what are your expectations for yourself this year, man? I think, you were a freshman All-American last year. You really can't ask for much better. Maybe you could say you were first team. Maybe that's the only thing you could have done better was made first team freshman All-American instead of second. But, I mean, to let people know how badly judgmental they are with that, Jaheim White was also second team. We all know that wasn't true, right?
Yeah.
So, Jaheim White was probably an All-American, just regular last year if he'd have got to play a couple more games. So, what are your personal expectations? Obviously, we know you're in a battle. So let's just assume you win that job. What are your personal expectations?
My personal expectation is just to do whatever the team needs me to win. I mean, if that's it, right tackle, right guard, center, left guard, left tackle. The individual accolades don't it doesn't mean anything if you're not winning. And if I was a freshman All-American last year and we would have lost every game, I would have been the saddest person on this planet. I mean, winning means everything to me, and it's not the individual stuff doesn't really mean much to me.
Awesome, man. That's I believe you when you say it. It's only because I've gotten to know you a little bit, but that's a rare quality to have in somebody. So I'm glad to hear you say that, man. A little bit of West Virginia humility coming out in him. You know what, though? Honestly, since our first conversation, that's how you've been. So I'm glad to hear that. Sean Uphold, thank you for another super chat, man. Really appreciate it, dude. Such a big supporter. It's unbelievable, this guy. Was blocking for possibly the best 1-2 punch in C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White a huge bonus coming to WVU?
Oh, for sure. I mean, these are great backs. I didn't get to see much of Donaldson because he's been recovering from the injury, but Jaheim White, his vision is insane for someone that young. I mean, everyone wants to talk about his speed and things like that. It don't matter how fast running back is if they can't read the holes and get to him. So but just seeing him jump cut and get vertical, it's a thing of beauty to watch. And when you have a guy like that, that the running back can sometimes make the offensive line look bad if they don't read the holes right. So it gives you a certain confidence that if I block right, he's gonna break it. So yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's hard not to really get excited about him this year. He's got a chance he's got some pressure on him, and I'm not around him day to day. I know for sure he's quiet.
He's a really humble guy. You never know how all them accolades are going to affect someone, but from everything I've been, everything I've heard, and when I'm around him, he loves his offensive lineman. He knows how important we are, so he's always showing us love, and we'll show him love right back.
I'm excited for him. So we talked about Jaheim. I think obviously Garrett, what can you say about him as a leader, man? And you get to see it every day. So I mean, from everything you read, everything you hear, there's really no doubt about it that it's his team. He pretty much leads the entire group. or at least on offense. Let's say that. It's his offense. What have you seen from Garrett this offseason? I think most people think, if there's one place he can improve, obviously completion percentage down to the low 50s needs to come up. People say the footwork's the issue. That's why the intermediate passing game struggled for him. Led the country in deep balls, so maybe it was more so that they just threw deep more often. Who knows? But overall, just what have you seen from GG?
Yeah, well, I couldn't, my quarterback technique coaching is not of any use to y'all at all. But from like a leadership perspective, that dude, he's a great leader, and he's very motivating. He's never bringing guys down. He's always lifting guys up. Doesn't matter if you're the kicker. Doesn't matter if you're the fourth string long snapper. He treats everybody the same. He has a great level of humility. And like I said before, you never know how individual accolades get somebody's head. He's really a great guy. And he just happens to be a great football player.
And I want to answer this really quick. Pokemon Kid Entertainment. Paul, let's go watch a WVU game together with Sean and Timothy. That would be awesome. We might be able to do something like that, Pokemon Kid Entertainment. I'd have to know what your name was first, though. Just giving you a hard time.
His name is.
Are you a Pokemon guy?
I was not. It wasn't as big when I was coming up. I might have been.
I'm not against it. I'm just not. I never got into it either.
Yeah, I don't get trading cards. I mean, if you like it, that's on that. I mean, hey, I don't partake in that.
Right. Your name's Nelson. Okay. Thanks, Nelson. Appreciate that. What was I going to say next? Oh, that's right. So everything I've heard you say, all these humble guys speaks to recruiting, right? They recruit a certain player type here. If you're going to be bad for the locker room, you're probably not going to make it to Morgantown no matter your talent. Obviously, some players are going to slip through the cracks on that. There's levels to it. There might be somebody that's a little bit annoying or whatever, but, generally speaking, bad character guys, just not the kind of guys Neil Brown brings in, That's, everything you mentioned about these guys, being humble, being just great players, like the things that you need as far as culture-wise, it's all attributed to Neil Brown. So,
oh, yeah.
I think, we haven't talked about him yet because I was trying to save him for a little while. I think what most people want to know is what's it like being around a guy like Neil Brown every day, because I'm in awe of him sometimes, just how he is. I really am. Like, he seems like just the best man.
Yeah, but everything with him is family oriented. I mean, he makes you when you walk in the building as a Mountaineer, he makes you feel a part of the family. Like, and it was day one when I first got there, and he preaches the importance of family, and you can really feel that when he talks to you. You can tell he really cares. It's not, he doesn't just see you as a commodity to help his team. Now, obviously, he thinks you're a pretty good player if he brought you in, but he sees the person.
That's awesome, man. Great answer on that. Sean wants to know, we're going to see you in the NCAA football game coming up. If yes, are you excited to see yourself in it?
Man, I opted in the fastest that I could have ever opted in. I mean, they could have paid me 6 cents to be in that game, let alone $600, bro, to be in a video game. Man, I played the NCAA games growing up all the time. I couldn't ask for a better thing than that.
That's awesome, man. You're going to make yourself start on the depth chart?
I think I'm going to move myself to quarterback and be 99 overall. So, yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Everybody wants to be a quarterback. It's just the way it is.
Hey.
I thought this was a pretty good question, one I'm jealous I didn't come up with. Predict our first touchdown of the season. Deep ball to Huddy. Garrett Greene scrambles out and scores. Jaheim busts out a long run. CJ punches one in from 4. Defensive score, kickoff, punt return to the house, or I'll add a bonus. Xavier Bausley somehow jumps on a fumble in the end zone.
Man, I don't like the GG scrambles out and scores because that implies there was some pressure for him to scramble out of. But
Of course, that you would answer like that.
But I think that I'd love a goal line like just like push
assert
right
your
in.
dominance.
Yeah,
just assert your dominance.
Like this ain't the Big 12 teams y'all are used to. Like this is a running team. That's what I want to see.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we got any other good questions here. Yeah, this leads right in what I was going to talk about next. Xavier, how excited are you to open against Penn State?
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that is a big time football school that you can't help but get excited for that, and you can feel the excitement around Morgantown. Like everybody's talking about Penn State. And my mom, she can't even find a hotel near Morgantown for the game. It's getting crazy. I don't think there will be an empty seat in that stadium. And being around my family, like they're always asking me how are we looking against Penn State? How are we looking against Penn State? and then to go from Penn State to I believe week 3 is Pitt. So it's I mean that Penn State's not as big of a rivalry as Pitt, obviously, but Pitt it's a location thing. Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, it's Pitt, man. And I'll tell you what, Acrisure, they lit that thing up last time he was there. I'll never give him any credit. It was the atmosphere at Acrisure Stadium 2 years ago when we played them. It was really, really good. So
I mean that's what you want. You want a healthy rivalry. Like what good is a rivalry if no one shows up to the games? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100% on that. 100%. So, obviously, they labeled you guys like 13-point underdogs in that game. Penn State's got a lot of pieces coming back. I feel like people are sleeping on us again, Xavier. I really do.
Yeah, I can't touch on the betting line, no Jonte Porter.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
But, I mean – it's West Virginia. We love being the underdogs. We've always been the underdogs. No one was expecting Pat White and them to beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So it's you just gotta take. You don't even look at that.
I understand about that. We are though.
Yeah, for sure.
We already walk around with the chip anyway for you guys,
that's the state of West Virginia, man. We always got a chip on our shoulder, and that's why we don't like Pitt because they don't have a chip on their shoulders.
No, they barely can care enough to come to the games, really, truthfully. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. I think Matt Moore got a lot of undue criticism for those early years in Morgantown when really they were facing a little bit of a roster problem and most definitely a depth problem. They didn't go 7 deep any of those first couple of years,
Yeah.
Not even 7, 8, whatever you really need for a healthy O-line room. That's changed, obviously, and he's had to have been a big part of that. You've been around Trickett, who's one of the greatest of all time, but how does this guy measure up?
Oh, he's great. I mean, he's as good. If he's very technique oriented, just like Trickett was. And he's he really he's the same way as Neil. Coach Brown. He surrounds himself with coaches that are the family oriented like himself, and Coach Moore really cares about you as a person. But like I said, it's very, very technique oriented, and we have another guy, Coach Yens. He should be an offensive line coach somewhere, but he's the assistant right now, and he's every bit as technique oriented. I mean, he's a great coach as well.
Awesome, man. That's terrific. So I think one of the big pieces to this year is. And it's funny because you mentioned him to me. I don't remember what it was, but apparently he's on the field a lot, but the GM, obviously, this guy is on the field evaluating. Do you have a lot of interaction with him as far as, and his last name is, I can hardly say it. How does he pronounce
His name is Drew, right? The GM?
Baby Anch, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think his impact has been, though? Because I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, he brings a very NFL style of assessment, I would say, like where Coach Moore is and like Coach Brown, they tend to be more on the like positive side, like where he was NFL GM. When NFL GMs evaluating a guy, they're looking at what are the negatives of this guy, and
right,
because everybody's good when you're evaluating NFL prospects.
Right.
So you really get to see how an NFL, because he was with the Dallas Cowboys for 20-something years, drafted like Dez Bryant, Tyron Smith, all these guys. So you get to see how an actual NFL GM would evaluate you. And he doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Wow. That's awesome. And you need that. You got to have it.
Yeah.
And it's good that it's not a coach, right? Because,
yeah,
he's probably not – he's not in the foxhole with you every single day. He probably just pops up every now and again to tell specific players or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know that to be sure. Maybe he's around every single snap of the day, but I'm assuming he probably evaluates certain groups, probably moves around a lot.
Yeah, he's very mobile.
Yeah. You'd have to be. You couldn't just stay stuck. But, his impact has been pretty evident, and certain pieces we've added have his thumbprints all over them. So I'm really glad for that. It's a part of it that probably most fans aren't really aware of or don't think about a lot, but it's the big in the game now, and it really takes some stuff off the coaches' plates.
When West Virginia offered me, I mean, he was like, after Coach Moore called me, he texted me. He's like, "Look, I'm the GM here. I have 20 years of NFL experience as a GM." And when you hear that, like it lets you know the type of people that are in the building that are there and helping you get better. So like it was a huge part of me coming to West Virginia, because a lot of schools they'll either have a GM or that their GM does not even come close to stacking up with the pedigree that Drew has.
Yeah, a lot of times their GM is probably a guy that's probably maybe he's trying to be work on the admin side of things, That guy's really been in there and done it. So
yeah.
Xavier, does the line have a name for how gritty they are? Like the Hogs, the Redskins called themselves the Hogs back in the day. You mean the Commanders, Jay?
Yeah, I can't say we have a name. I mean, like everybody calls linemen Hogs. I mean, I guess the team in Washington might have started that, but y'all can call us the Hogs if you want to.
Okay. Who's your favorite all-time WVU player? Matt Lord wants to know.
That has to either. That's tough. So. Now, I can barely remember the Pat White days, but I definitely have more Pat White jerseys than anybody else, mostly because my whole family are Miami Dolphins fans. So when Pat got drafted there, I had a Miami Dolphins Pat White jersey. But the one that I can remember the most was probably is a generic answer, probably Tavon Austin.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I mean that's who I grew up with, and I remember watching with my mom and dad the Baylor game, the one where it was like 70 points and 700 yards from Geno and all them.
Yeah,
and I remember being disappointed with that year when they went on the losing streak, and I mean that's just. I was a Mountaineer fan through and through, so I feel what everyone in this chat feels. When it doesn't go well.
That's awesome, man. Law Talk, she said, Rich Rodriguez is the only man who has ever broken my heart. And she put that in all caps. That's in all caps.
Yeah, the thing about Richrod, the reason he broke your heart is because he's a great coach. I mean, if he was a bad coach, he would have not broke your heart. If he left, you would have been happy. So, yeah.
Were you a lawyer then too? Because perhaps you could have made something happen on the legal side for that not to have happened. Oh man, this Bama 25 says you guys should be called the Orcas.
Oh yeah, Coach Scott calls us that. Coach Chad Scott, and then the Orcas, and then the younger offensive lineman he calls the baby Orcas. So yeah,
that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I like it. Oh, that's a good question.
Like, you know why they're Orcas? Because they're killers.
Ooh. He's always got that one-liners like that.
I'm telling you, he's
you know what? And just like usual, here I've forgotten about Chad Scott. You know, what about Chad Scott, man? You know, this is a guy that I don't want to call him an overachiever. That's because that I don't mean when I say that I don't mean it with a negative connotation attached to it. But he just, you know, to me, he's so underappreciated. What he's done with that running back room over the last 2-3 years has been insane. And now he's got the whole offense. How much contact do you have with him? Obviously, being on offense, I'm assuming probably quite a bit. But I mean, he's got to be the most positive guy to be around.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's always got a speaker playing music, and he plays a wide variety of music from country to hip hop, making sure everybody gets their music in. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, he's got one-liners for days, just of different sayings, and not just like funny things like killer whales, but I mean like things that have to do with football. And these things get ingrained in our memory, like for ball security. He has like these different sayings that just get ingrained in your memory, and then you go out on the field and it's just second nature.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I can relate to that military-wise. You know, they had different what we called them ditties. Or slogans, you know, but that would be basically to help you memorize certain things. So that's pretty cool. That's probably why he's doing it, because it works, you know. Timothy Green wants to know, he has a question for you. How do you feel about the facilities in Morgantown?
Top notch. I mean, especially coming from group of five, like it's not close. The things we can take advantage of is just it's second to none.
One of the reasons Bob Huggins liked JUCO players, he said, because they can eat a cheese sandwich and be happy with it. You know, like,
oh yeah, I mean, like,
so somebody like yourself coming from the group of five, which wasn't even really group of five when he signed, were they?
Yeah,
not yet.
I was my first year was my redshirt year. It was FCS all the way through.
Was there a big talent jump from FCS to FBS?
Yeah, but it just depended.
Probably line of scrimmage for sure.
Yeah, it just depended who you played, really. Yeah. Like if you're playing a higher tier FCS team, they can compete.
Like South Dakota State.
Yeah, I mean, these guys they're good players. So it's Division I, but the thing is, I didn't get to play against a lot of the FCS teams.
Right, that's right. Right. Yeah. I forgot about that. I didn't forget about it. I just took it for granted. I mean, I guess I just figured, eye test.
I played in one game my freshman year against Nicholls State, and we were up by 65 points or something. It was something ridiculous. But so that was my only experience with the FCS.
How far did Jacksonville State go in the FCS that year?
We weren't allowed to do anything. Like where we were transitioning, we weren't allowed to. Like we lost 2 games. We lost one game to Tulsa and then one game to Southeast Louisiana. But we couldn't do anything like in terms of playoff or anything. When you're in that transition year, you're not allowed to. We literally beat everyone in the conference and didn't win the conference championship because we.
Wow. So you guys were probably national championship contenders.
Yeah, if we would have been allowed to. But the argument is that when you're transitioning, you move up your amount of scholarships. So you have the FBS amount of scholarships. So what they were saying was that the FCS teams have less scholarships than we did.
So you guys had a competitive advantage.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. We won. So
interesting. Interesting for sure. Guys, like I said one more time, we're only going to be talking for a few more minutes. So if you have a question for Xavier, anything pointed at all, don't forget to hit the super chat button. If you can't do that, definitely like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment, guys, if you're watching this after the fact. Don't forget to thank Xavier for coming on today. He didn't have to do this, although this is an NIL-related interview. Still, he took his time out for this, and we really appreciate him for it. It's been fun to talk to Xavier so far. So I'm going to jump into my last couple questions. So if you guys have anything, don't forget to ask. So talk about some of these youngsters on the offensive line. I think people are really excited about a few of them. A few you haven't even met yet. I'm personally excited because I've gotten to know him. For you to meet Kyle Altuner. I really do think he's going to be a superstar. Oh, you have gotten to meet him. Okay, good. I think he's going to be a superstar, just looking at some of his tape. What he did against 4- and 5-star players this offseason, he dominated them. So I'm excited about his future. But, you hear guys like Johnny Williams, names like that. What have you seen from some of the youngsters on this team, and what does his offensive line look like in the future? Does it even lose any steps?
I mean, I don't believe so. I think where Johnny is behind Wyatt Milam, if there's a certain standard that he is trying to live up to. So when Wyatt is out there doing extra kick sets or whatever, he's out there with them. And to Kyle Altuner, we're really excited about him. Coach Moore does a good job of bringing in the recruits that are coming in and just bringing them around us, so it's not like a brand new person we're meeting. But yeah, he's a great guy from what I've talked to him so far, and a great family. And I mean,
streak.
Yeah, for sure. Not a great guy on the field, for sure.
Yeah,
you don't want to be a great guy on the field at all.
No, we want some of that tape like you put out last year on the field.
Yeah.
You drove people into the ground. I bet you. How many pancakes did you have last year? Did you count?
I didn't count.
Man, I promise you, I saw them. I mean, I watched a lot of your tape, but it's hard to say. I couldn't even put a number on it. There was a lot. You were dominating. You dominated. That's why you're a freshman All-American. I mean, really, you deserve a lot of credit for that, man. It's got to be something that I don't know if you surprise yourself with it, but man, you developed quickly after that redshirt.
The biggest thing was just getting stronger my freshman year,
losing the bad weight, putting on good weight.
Yeah, what happened was I went on to lose all that weight for my junior to senior year. I went on a keto diet. So I just lost a lot of muscle, because your body burns muscle before it'll burn fat. So to lose all the weight, I just lost a lot of muscle naturally. And I ended up, but my freshman year, I just was putting in extra work in the weight room, just trying to get ready because I knew that our right tackle was graduating. So I just was always in the weight room getting stronger. And that was the biggest thing, because I knew I was athletic enough to compete, but just if some guy can just bull rush you, it's over. So
that's what I was going to ask you about, and if you don't want to comment on it, you don't have to, because it's kind of getting a little specific. But when I'm talking about French, on film, I think one of the things he does best is probably speed to power. Have you dealt with that playing against him? His speed to power is just man, he's so good on tape with that.
And he's deceptive with it. It looks like a straight speed rush, and then he'll just put his foot in the ground and go vertical. So I mean, it's tough to deal with.
He beat a lot of good tackles last year with that, because he's obviously known for being quicker off the edge and having some bend. 6'3" at that. But then getting right up under the shoulder pads, and once they do that, it's hard to win. You're already off balance.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Coach Mike Joseph?
I mean, he's a great strength coach. He's one of the best in the nation. I mean, the expectation is you're gonna give your 1,000% effort every single rep, and you're gonna do it with the best technique in the nation. And he sets that standard, and that just like when I first got to WVU, there was a lot of aspects of my strength that just wasn't there, that I just didn't have the opportunity to work, like neck strength, for example. And I realized that my neck compared to the guys at West Virginia was just not as strong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you just work things that we just didn't have the equipment to work at Jack State.
Right. Zach Frazier, I bet his neck strength was good.
I have heard. I haven't been in the weight room with him, but
yeah, he's one of those guys too, where he's just a tad undersized in the NFL. All that extra strength that he has is probably going to suit him very well.
Yeah, from what I've heard, like Zach Frazier's like foundationally one of the strongest people you'll ever meet. Like, just you can't move him. And like, I was talking to some of our D linemen, like who was some of the best, like who were the best offensive linemen you played in the Big 12 last year? Every single one of them. It wasn't somebody from the other teams. It was literally Zach Frazier. Like they said in camp, Zach Frazier was the greatest player that they had played, and they played, players from Texas, Oklahoma. It didn't change their answer. So.
Well, I can share this now, that he's moved on. He had a significant offer from Alabama to transfer.
Yeah.
And didn't do it, So he could have left and went to greener pastures, and he would have. And listen, Alabama was weak at center last year. That was their weak spot on their offensive line. He would, you give them the best center in the country, maybe they have a different outcome. People would say Powers at Oregon is better. I do think he is elite, and he and Zach were neck and neck. Like, that guy was that good too. Sometimes they're, but Zach Frazier, I think Zach Frazier was just a little bit better than Powers Smith at Oregon was just who Zach Frazier is as a person, I've gotten to see that, and I think that's where he wins, that character and then the work ethic. I think nobody's going to outwork him.
And I mean, nobody's happier than Zach Frazier. I mean, Zach Frazier's literally going to play football within like a 45-mile radius in the same place his whole life. Like, you can't. I don't know if you can ask for anything more than that.
You can't, man. No, you're going to be getting. He's going to get paid too. I'm happy for him. And he's probably going to keep getting sponsored and everything because he's still close to home.
Yeah.
Probably all those NIL things he had are basically just going to transition into professional.
And I mean, it's sad, but a lot of West Virginia fans are Steelers fans, so it's a sad epidemic. But hey,
what are you trying to say, man? Well, I'm a Steelers fan, and I'm okay with it. So I caught it. I got the epidemic.
Yeah, but it's a lot of people, man. It's sad.
I appreciate the compliment, Russell. We have Xavier come back as often as we can. This is a great interview, and Paul, you were crushing it on YouTube. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Xavier, is there anything you want to say? We got 133 people in here listening to you. I think everybody's pretty happy with the interview's gone. I am. But is there anything else you want to add as far as just something something you want to get tell the fans or anything?
If I could tell the fans anything, it's just show up and show out. I mean, we have a chance to make history with this West Virginia team, and just top to bottom, this roster is really coming into shape, and it's gonna be a fun ride. And if we have a packed Mountaineer Stadium, a packed Milan Puskar, I mean, that's just gonna make it even harder on Penn State. So we don't want them to be able to hear. They got the new intercoms in the helmets. We don't want them to be able to hear nothing. So just make all the noise you can.
Is that in every helmet or just the quarterback helmet?
The quarterback and then one player on the defense.
Okay. So probably most likely the middle linebacker or safety.
That'd be my guess. Yeah.
it probably wouldn't last long in the defensive line or offensive lineman's helmet anyway. It'd be smashed up before halfway through the game. It'd be unrecognizable.
Yeah, it'd just be static.
Yeah. Pokemon said he's a Bengals fan.
That's better, but we still the Dolphins are accepting applications for new fans. So Pokemon, you can come over here. It's a great life.
You know, everybody quit caring about the AFC East because the Patriots won it for 20 years.
That's true, and Tom Brady is at the top of my most hated people to walk this earth. So,
Raider Nation. So, did you watch the roast of Tom Brady?
Oh, I enjoyed every second. There was not I had popcorn.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was enjoying that.
Man. All right. Well, and don't forget, guys, if you want to sponsor Xavier in an NIL deal or anything like that, he is available on social media at Bausley Xavier. And I think he's going to be signing up for the Influencer app, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to contact someone. There's a bunch of things I need to get done in terms of, and I just got the NIL store up. So if you want to get some merch, that would be great.
Oh, okay.
But,
how does that work, man? I haven't even looked at it yet.
It's pretty simple. You just buy some merch on there, and then a portion of the proceeds go into my pocket. So it's a pretty good deal.
Okay, so is any of it signed by you personally, or can you make that happen?
No, I mean if the stuff is not signed, so I don't.
Okay, you're not even where. Yeah. Okay, it's in a separate location from you.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was like on campus or I don't know.
It's the NIL store. The NIL store has like the whole. That's probably the main NIL like merch place.
Oh, okay. So it's like a big store. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. I guess I didn't know about it.
Oh yeah, it's no problem.
Okay, cool. It's a great show tonight, Xavier. Love hearing what you said, and let's go Mountaineers. All right, guys. I want to thank Xavier for coming on. I had a blast talking to you, man. After I end the stream, we'll talk to you for just like 5 minutes. Guys, thank you for showing up and showing out for Xavier. It means a lot. Thank you guys for the super chats. Other than that, not a whole lot else to say. We're going to monitor the situation closely and wish these guys well to a Big 12 championship game. That's what we want to see. So,
yes, sir.
Hope all is well, guys. And we'll see you next time on Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. But until then, this episode is over. We are out.